Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me again. Well, today is the day that we are going to preserve the onions that you and I planted together from seed and grew and then harvested a few weeks ago. And I have my candelabra here, which I will explain in just a moment. First, I need to fetch the onions. These are not all of the onions that you and I harvested, but they are the ones that we will preserve today. We will freeze some of the onions, we will caramelize some, and we will pickle others. And the first thing I need to do is pull off the ends and peel the onions. As you might recall, we planted 3 kinds of onions last spring. Yellow Patterson, white Sierra Blanca, and red Cabernet. Although the yellow onions did not perform very well, the red and the white ones performed extremely well. These are the varieties that we are preserving today. I have washed the onions, and now we are getting ready to peel them, and this is where the candles come in handy. You actually only need 1 candle, but I have candelabra, so why not use them? A little onion romance. So the candle flame immediately dissipates the irritating fumes that the onions give off. So you don't cry while you work. And these garden-grown onions are super potent. If you were with me right after we harvest them, I made a gorgeous onion tart and immediately started crying. I mean, my eyes turned really red. I lit a candle and ta-da, no more onion fumes. Now, I should mention that the reason I'm freezing most of these onions instead of putting them into storage just as they are is because I do not have the ideal storage condition for onions. So onions need really cool temperatures and total darkness. And by cool temperatures, I'm talking about just above 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And I don't think I have that anywhere in my house. Phew, I don't think I have ever washed and peeled this many onions at one time ever in my life. So the first onions we're going to do are the caramelized onions. So I am going to cut these into slices. Caramelized onions do take a bit of time to cook, but they are so delicious. In fact, they are delicious on almost anything and everything. And here are the beautiful sliced onions. Now let's head over to the cooktop because I need to add these onions to a skillet. Butter, and here come the onions. Now this looks like a lot of onions, but they will cook down dramatically, especially after I add some salt. And I think 2 teaspoons of salt will be just right for this amount of onions. Give this a toss. I'm going to cover this skillet to let the onions sweat for about 5 minutes while they release their juices. Now, caramelized onions only require 3 things: onions, salt, and time, as in time on your watch. In a big pot, they can take 4 to 5 hours to caramelize, but I think in this very wide skillet, they will probably take closer to 90 minutes. And I will stir the onions from time to time just to ensure they are not burning. But I do want them to turn richly brown, and they will become super sweet. And caramelized onions freeze perfectly. And while we are waiting on the onions to caramelize, I'm going to go ahead and get set up for the red onions, which we will pickle. And I think I want to use my mandolin for these onions. Obviously, I got sidetracked while looking for my mandolin. We have to play with more than just onions today. Yes, we can give Mr. Knife a little rest. Now, I would link my mandolin in the description box below, except I bought this at a kitchen supply store many, many years ago. I looked for it on Amazon and I didn't see it. But I think all mandolins are terrific gadgets. Here we have our very thinly sliced onions. Now, pickled onions are just fantastic on just about anything. I love them on tacos and on hamburgers. I mean, you name it, really. I need to fetch a couple of jars. But before I fetch the jars for the pickled onions, I need to stir my caramelized onions. They are already starting to brown. So now we can put our very thinly sliced onions in jars. Now, I've seen recipes where people first boiled vinegar and salt and sugar together. I'm not going to do that because these not caramelized onions, these pickled onions are going to sit overnight in the refrigerator. So the sugar will dissolve perfectly then. So no need to cook anything. Now I need red wine vinegar, or you could use regular white vinegar here. I'm going to fill this, about 2/3 of the way up. Then I need some salt, using about a teaspoon of salt for each jar. I also need some sugar. I suppose up to a tablespoon for each jar, but I'm using slightly less than that. And to push these onions down into the vinegar, make sure they are covered. Put a lid on. These are leak-proof screw top lids, which I can link in the description below if you are interested. And I want to turn this upside down, make sure all of the ingredients are coated. Give this a shake. Didn't have that lid on all the way. These are leak-proof. And I'm going to let these sit out for a bit, and then later I will transfer them to the refrigerator. Now let's give our onions another stir. These are caramelizing just beautifully, but they're not quite dark enough yet. And you can see there's a good bit of fond stuck to the bottom of this stainless steel skillet. I'm going to add a little water so I can deglaze the skillet. And then we can stir to pick up these stuck-on bits, because those stuck-on bits are loaded with caramelized flavor. Now we can boost the heat a little just to evaporate the water. And I will have to multitask here because I don't want my caramelized onions to burn. But in the meantime, I have a lot more slicing to do. Slicing and or dicing, because I want to freeze the remaining onions. Our caramelized onions are almost done. Have a look. So these are turning deep brown, and they are becoming very sweet and almost jam-like. I'm going to let them go for probably 10 more minutes or so, and I will give them a stir every minute or two. And now we need to dice some onions. I'm going to dice some and slice others. The slices will be for things like fajitas. And to make life easier, I'm going to use my little veggie chopper here to dice. Does a perfect job. I can link this gadget in the description below if you are interested. Let's see how many diced onions we have so far. Quite a few. We can bag these up. And then keep going. Now, the nice thing about freezing onions is you do not have to blanch them first. They can go directly into the freezer. Have to keep an eye on my caramelized onions. They are ready. These can get a little bit darker. Oop, got to put my base on this. I'm getting carried away here because this gadget is honestly fun to use. Now, whenever I need diced onion for a recipe, a soup, a stew, the base for a soup, I will have the onions already diced and ready to go. No peeling, no chopping, no dicing. I have the onions that I spilled earlier that I can put in this bag. And then the remaining onions in this bowl we can slice for fajitas. Keeping an eye on my caramelized onions. When I do chicken fajitas, I tend to bake the onion and the bell pepper and the chicken all together on a single baking tray. So this will be very convenient to have the onions already sliced. Fajita style. Bag them up. Yeah, these caramelized onions are definitely done now. At least I'm going to call them done. We can let them cool to room temperature, and then I will put them in either a jar or some other freezer container. Meantime, we have to deal with these beautiful red Cabernet onions. I think I will slice them. Into a freezer bag they go. Now, of course, I could use red onions, just as I use the white onions. And they're sliced for fajitas, or sliced or diced for soups, stews, chilies, and the like. I need to get cleaned up here, and after all of this slicing, dicing, and chopping and caramelizing, I am hungry. So we need to scare up something for lunch. Let me think about that for a moment. I'm thinking maybe a grilled cheese with some caramelized onion on top. So I found some basic white bread that you and I made together quite a while ago. I sliced it up and froze it. And we can use some of this Churchtown Dairy cheese. It's a camembert type cheese. Now, you and I bought this during our little field trip in the previous episode. And if you haven't watched that episode, I hope you will do so right away. We had a great time exploring some of the sights and tastes of Columbia County, New York. Oh, this looks gorgeous. Now I need to butter one side of each slice of bread. Oh, and if you watched that video from our field trip, when we visited Churchtown Dairy, there was a beautiful round barn there, and it had a lot of chairs in the barn. And I thought, well, maybe this is for weddings. And I just read somewhere that Churchtown Dairy does Shakespeare productions in that barn. And what a great venue for watching Shakespeare when you're surrounded by cows and such beautiful scenery. Okay, now we have to start toasting this bread in the skillet. Now I'm buttering the top side of the bread. This side will also get toasted. Now we can add the caramelized onion to the cheese. The other bread on top. This bread is very hot. It will melt the cheese right away. Should probably cut each of these sandwiches in half. Then I'm going to pour out a couple of glasses of water. Lizette is here. She will be joining us for lunch. But before we head out to find a shady spot where we can eat these sandwiches, let's look at everything we accomplished this morning. So we created anywhere from 6 months to a year's worth of diced onion, probably 3 to 6 months of sliced onions that we can use for fajitas, more sliced onion for fajitas. We made 3 pint-sized jars of pickled onions. In the refrigerator, these will last anywhere from 2 weeks to a month, maybe even longer. And we made caramelized onions, and my only regret is that I didn't make more caramelized onions. And finally, we made these exquisite cheese and caramelized onion toasted sandwiches. And now let's go find a shady spot in the garden so we can try our lunch. My friends, this is the kind of sandwich that makes me go weak in the knees. It's indescribably delicious with that Churchtown Dairy camembert cheese. What really takes it over the top is the caramelized onion. And I hope you can hear the crunch of the bread. Oh. Thank you for being here with me for a few hours today while we preserved about half of the garden onions that you and I grew and harvested. Let me know how your own garden harvest is coming along and if you too are busy preserving your garden food. I have a friend who's going to have minor surgery later this week, so in the next episode, you and I are going to create a surprise 3-course dinner for her and her husband. I think it will be a fun episode, and I hope you will watch. Until then, please treat yourself very, very well, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye for now, friends.